It's time to bring you yet another amazing episode. And now, welcome your host.
Good to have you on the show. This is Live Well Lived by Mobola Steven. I'm the host of Mobola Steven. On Live Well Lived, we like to focus on personal development and self-improvement topics. We occasion expert professionals and also thought leaders who share profound insights on disruptive yet constructive mindset conversations on topics or subjects of the personal development and self-improvement. We've come to realize the importance of embracing personal development and self-improvement because it's a lifelong process, and we must embrace it in order for us to transform from where we are to where we need to be. Now, when we come to embrace personal development, we find ourselves along the line. And in finding ourselves, we come to realize the possibilities or the endless possibilities that lie within us, and also what we are able to achieve at the end of the day. This is the mission and the focus of Live Well Lived by Mobola Steven. We try to shine more light on what is truly inside of us and how we can bring it to the fore, harnessing and maximizing it in order for us to really live a worthwhile and fulfilling life at the end of the day and this side of eternity. Today, I have Alan and Angie Thomas, who are with us coaches. They're on the show with me with a pair of line, Unleashing Human Potential through Weight Loss. Welcome to the show, Alan and Angie Thomas.
Hi, thank you for having us today. It's so good to be here.
Thanks for joining me on the show. Super excited to talk about this important discussion, talking about dieting and also obesity, how we can get it right. The question is, I like to start with this. We don't have the plan, we don't have any exercise, and yet we have the calories get it burned. So what is this all about generally?
When you're talking about, and I think what you're asking, what you're talking about, so much of the time when we find ourselves obese, there 90,000 people a day are added to the obesity rolls worldwide every single day, and the diet and exercise industry has been around for a long time, and they haven't solved the problem. It's a returning problem every single day, and what our approach comes out of this realization that Angie and I came along with was that it was never the diet or exercise plan that was going to solve the problem. Do you have to change what you eat? Of course you do. That's common sense. I mean, do you have to do some exercise? Well, we've had clients who physically cannot exercise that still lost weight. It starts all with the rethinking and with the mindset. And at the end of the day, when I found myself over 100 pounds overweight at age 55, I mean, and stepped on the scale and saw 304 pounds. As you and Angie and I were discussing earlier, I was in the senior life insurance business. Okay, the senior market is predominantly men and women 65 years of age and over. Okay, and having sat down with literally thousands and thousands of men and women in that age group, I could never remember meeting one single man that was 65 years old and more than 100 pounds overweight. And in 2017, I found myself more than 100 pounds overweight at age 55. So while I had been on, Angie and I counted it, 6, 7 dozen diet and exercise plans in attempts to lose weight over 3 decades, more than 3 decades, it was never that. It was the realization that if I didn't do something about it, I was going to be known as her first husband because, while she wasn't shopping around for another man, hopefully, and still not, she was good. I would be the picture on the wall of the first husband who died because I couldn't put the fork down. Okay. So many of us, we want this magical diet or this magic. And right now there's a lot of pills, there's a lot of surgeries and things that restrict caloric intake, which is important. I mean, with that, but it doesn't solve the root problem. That's why we find people going back in their weight gain. They go back to it. They miss this fact. There is no land of eat as much as you want, whenever you want, and whatever you want. It does not exist. And so they ignore the changes that have to be made internally, the mental changes. And so when people make those kind of changes, magic happens. That's where the magic is. It's not really even magic. It's just common sense. but we ignore it because we want some external force to solve the problem for us. Again, I'm not saying that all those solutions are bad. What I'm saying is it's never going to provide a long-term solution to a problem. The calories in, calories out absolutely work. Watch your macros absolutely work. There's a million things that work out there. The question that people have to start asking is, what's their responsibility in the role? What's their role of this? Where does their responsibility lie? And when people do that, I mean, we've seen people who struggled for 50 plus years. I mean, I think of a client of ours just brought tears to us, a post he wrote on Facebook. He was what we call a unicorn. Okay, now unicorns you don't see very often because they're fictional creatures. But this is a guy who was 388 pounds at age 70. He should have been dead. I mean, God forbid. I mean, I'm glad he wasn't. But statistically, he should have been dead. He heart attack survivor, couldn't exercise because fused vertebrae, walked with a walker. I mean, all these reasons why he couldn't lose weight, and he'd struggled for more than 50 years. He's down almost 100, between 165 and 170 pounds today because he made the internal changes that he'd always refused to make. Was it easy? No, of course not. It wasn't easy. Was it simple? Oh yeah, it was way more simple than he thought it was. And he had ignored that, been looking for that solution. And that's what we do with diets. We look for that to solve the problem that's going to take some action on our part, because we really want to eat our cheese pizza or whatever, and I have nothing against pizza, or our single serving size of ice cream that comes in the half-gallon tubs. That's what they were single serving for me when I was struggling with obesity. And we think that that's going to solve these diets are going to solve it. They're never going to solve the problem. The problem is within, just like you talk about in personal development. The problem is within. I hope that answered your question. So.
All right, Alan. Yes, Alan, I like to ask this question further to just what you said. Do you mean to say that diet pills are going to last for a long time?
Diet pills, here's the thing. Diet pills that people are taking now, think about this for a minute. Now, I'm not a physician. If a doctor's told you to take it, listen to your doctor. I mean, at the end of the day, but I want you to think about this. First, think about the side effects that they have. Okay. They have a side effect list that's a mile long, and think about, okay, well, once I get the weight off, I'll stop taking that pill. Okay. But what happens when they stop taking the pill? The weight go if they don't do the internal changes. And I pray some of these people who are taking these medications and all will do the internal changes necessary. I do hope that. But at the end of the day, if they don't make the internal changes, when they stop taking the pill, the weight's going to skyrocket again. Does that make sense? I mean, think about it. It's common sense. I mean, we're abdicating our role. We're abdicating our role of self-control. It's a self-control. It's what we have 4 children. Angie and I have four grown children. We taught them the sign of maturity. You want me to tell you what I learned with kids? Think about this: when they come out of the womb, as soon as they're hungry, as soon as they need their diaper changed, they scream because they cannot wait. Okay, as they grow older, and they become 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we expect them to be mature. The definition of maturity is being able to wait. But in the diet and exercise mentality does not teach that. It's wait. Think about that from a maturity standpoint. I mean, we want to sit in the restaurant and eat the triple size cheeseburgers and all that. I mean, God, I love cheeseburgers, nothing wrong with them. But at the end of the day, we abdicate the role of being able to self-control, to self-regulate. And when those medications go in force, I mean, hey, maybe they'll invent a pill sometime that works forever and has no side effects. But look at all the data that's coming in, Angie's collecting articles of all the damages that are being in it. We run into clients. It's like one lady right now that we've been working with. She had weight loss surgery. She had weight loss surgery. That's supposed to solve it, right? No, it didn't. It didn't. She went back up to 300 pounds. Today, because of the internal work she's doing, she's down almost 70 pounds of that without surgery, without a pill, because of the internal work she's doing. At the end of the day, with when an adult, it's no different than, I think about Dave Ramsey, the very famous, financial guru. I mean, if you've ever heard of him, Dave Ramsey teaches a very simple concept: spend less than you make, don't go in debt; burn more than you eat, don't get overweight. I mean, I know it's people say, "Oh, it can't be that simple." It is. It really is. But the complication point of the whole process, what makes it so complicated is we are looking for magic. The magic is already inside of you. Just like you talk about in personal development, you're discovering magic every day with people you have as guests on your podcast. You're discovering these different things. The magic was created inside of us, and when we acknowledge that, then so it's simple, the weight falls off. Make sense?
Right. Angie,
And like
I'd like you
Alan,
to yes, I'd like you to respond to this. Do you think a person's weight could hold them back in life? Now, is it all about the weight or the mindset?
well, I definitely think it can hold them back. Just for instance, um, for us, definitely, it's definitely both. But I think of how our life has changed. We were more sedentary. We love now one of our most enjoyable parts of our day is our morning bike ride. You don't have to bike to lose weight or exercise. We love it because it helps our mind get clear, and being out in the fresh air, whether it's a rainy morning for us in North Florida, we have great weather most times. It doesn't matter if it's a little damp or whatever. We typically are out for at least 6 days of the week. And we didn't start but with a mile or two, but with us and how much we enjoy it, we're riding about 20 miles a day now. We enjoy it. We have a beautiful area. We're seeing deer, turtles, whatever. So that gets our mind ready too for the day. It's a great time for us. Yes, we're out together, but it gives us time to kind of get our day, the seed planted in our day for our day internally, and spend time just kind of reconnecting with nature. But yes, I see also with our clients the potential for them, not just with their family and their personal relationships. Seeing one, Pastor Scott, his daughters who were in middle and high school had no aspirations for being in the political, holding an office until their dad lost about almost 100 pounds. I think it was 95. Then all of a sudden, his girls are showing up to tell he and his wife, "Oh, I want to run for this office and that office," which they did, and they won. Their whole mindset shifted. He started another business. He is still pastoring, and his church is growing because people have seen and are witnessing his journey with his weight loss. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's transformed himself. He's able to speak, in his case, the word more powerfully, and people are taking his message more to heart because he's authentic to what the word calls us to be." And he also has begun a business that was very close to his heart on financial, more or less a financial coaching business to help people overcome challenges that his own family had. And he would not have done that had he not been confident, which is what his weight loss caused, was a result of. But he's living his life. He's running half marathons.
Whole marathons.
A whole marathon. Okay, I was thinking it was that. But his big aha that he'd wanted for years and was never able to because of his weight, he wanted to, and it's not for everyone, but he wanted to skydive on his 50th birthday because of his weight loss journey. And he had just come towards the end of that for his 50th. He celebrated jumping, tandem diving, and he's yelling, "I'm so glad I lost the weight," because that freedom that he felt, the joy. I mean, you can just see the joy on this gentleman's face on the video, and that's what lights us up.
Yeah.
I mean, it lights us up to see how his whole family has changed, not just himself in an office somewhere, his whole community.
Yeah, and that's another thing we think. It's so funny. You know, do you, and we never tell people what they should weigh, okay? But it's so interesting. We ask, and I would say this to every person that's listening to this. You know, if the creator of the universe walked into your home with the version of you that you were created to be at your present age, what does that person weigh? Always interesting. It's never the chart number on the wall at the doctor's office. They already know internally what they were created to be. It's just almost uncanny. Angie and I started asking that question years ago, it's so interesting. They'll give us an answer before that, and it'll be a number, and they might go up 20, 30 pounds or down 2 or 3 or whatever. It's so interesting. They know because that's the weight of freedom. You know, when we're physically obese and it's bothering us mentally, and it's very seldom that it doesn't. And again, we don't shame anybody because of their weight. I mean, we just want people to be free. We want them to be free. And it's so interesting. The number on the scale, it matters. It does matter. You can't, it's Byron Katie, the speaker and writer. She writes something that I love this statement. She says, when I ignore reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time. You lose every time. So you cannot escape reality. If somebody is 200 pounds overweight, typically, or 100 pounds overweight, they're thinking about it constantly. What that does, that's like carrying an anchor behind your brain and pulling it every day, knowing that in trying to act like it's not there, it is there. And so what does that do? That affects your relationships with your children. It affects your relationships with your significant other. It affects your confidence about going out. It keeps you hiding. If you've got a dream of starting a business, being an entrepreneur, typically it'll stop you because you're always wondering what other people are thinking of you instead of focusing on what should be at hand. And again, I don't say this to shame anybody. I say it to wake people up. Stop arguing with reality because you're going to lose. But only
Thank you for, yeah, sure. Thanks for the perspective, Angie and Helen. But really, my audience will like for you to really explain better because, you know, in the course of this discussion, it sounds more like automatic for you to move from having the diet pill mentality, you know, to having a mind shift. Now, developing a mind shift towards dieting is tough work, and it's not something that happens overnight. I'd like you to share your perspective regarding this to my audience. How can you tell them this? How can you let them know that embracing a mind shift in dieting can go a long way to help them to achieve their goal faster?
No, that's a great question. The first thing, get out of your mind that slow and steady wins the race. You know, it's this mindset, and I'm not arguing that slow and steady will win the race, but going the distance wins the race every time. Okay, so many people around their weight, they miss this fact that they've gained weight typically 4 to 7 pounds a year to reach the weight they're at. Okay, number one. And then when they're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, they think it's slow. And they'll get this mindset, oh, it's slow and steady wins the race. No, I say completely obliterate that mindset because that's the wrong mindset to have because you want personal momentum. Understanding that a pound a week is 52 pounds a year. That's typically that's anywhere from, you know, what is that, 8 to 12 times faster than you gained it. Okay, that's blazing fast because when you get the belief, when you change your belief around it, start asking questions that will destroy the limiting belief of it. It is 1 pound a week slow. Well, you could say it is. You could say it is if you're wanting to get down 100 pounds in 2 weeks, it's not going to happen. Okay, but if you realize that you gained 6 pounds a year, you're losing the weight. What does that work out to be? 9 times faster, 8 to 9 times faster than you gained it. In the perspective of if you're driving a car at 50 miles an hour and you drive it 8 times faster, that's 400 miles an hour. That's pretty fast. So start shifting your belief around it because what's going to happen is you're going to see and then start looking for evidence in other areas of your life that the weight loss is helping you with. Is it helping you with your confidence? Then start capturing that data capture that all the time, and then get out of this uh, process, as I said earlier, that there's a land of eat as much as you want, whenever you want, and whatever you want. It's no different than, I would imagine, that you've looked at your bank statement sometime this month, Umbala, haven't you?
Sure, I do.
Yeah, of course, it's a silly question, and but we want our weight. We want to hide as though the weight doesn't matter. It's no different. Let you look at it. You make sure. So checking it frequently, so that you know where you're at, and then realizing the impact that it's going to have. And so building that belief will build momentum in other areas of your life. It's why we've seen people get married, we've seen people start new businesses, we've seen people, and not even, they don't even have to have all their weight off. It's just their beliefs change about the rest of their life, and they start realizing that the weight was holding them back, and they shed the emotional weight. The emotional weight is way heavier than the physical weight, just to be clear. And so when that starts happening, it gives you momentum in those other areas too. So it's not just about the health. I want people to be healthy. And also realize this, you don't have to do crazy to lose weight. You don't, but we all want this magic solution, and the magic is already built inside our DNA. It's already there.
Right, Angie, thanks for sharing that once again, Alan. Now, talking about mind shift and eating lifestyle, because I think we're really focusing on mind shift here, which is also the core of this podcast, and I will we try to focus on disruptive mind shift conversations. Really. And now, talking about mind shift and eating lifestyle, when we begin to shift our belief system towards dieting, according to Ellen, how can we go about the right foods to begin to eat?
Really, it's being mindful with what we choose, making choices, and we're all intelligent. Most of us have been, whether in school or whatever. It's honestly just common sense. I mean, most of us know that uh, if we have fresh vegetables, meat, chicken, fresh foods compared to, a box of donuts or processed foods, or, things loaded with sugar and breads, most of us know which of those options will help us see the results we want to make our body healthier. If you're sick, it may actually kill your body. That happens to people too. Without telling them what to do, most people just have common sense. They've known it all along, but the "I want it now" mentality that so many of us, and we were guilty of it ourselves, or we would not have lost 192 pounds together in 2017. It wasn't because we didn't enjoy food. Everyone we speak to enjoys food, and are all emotional eaters. We hear that, but we have to learn to make adult choices. If we want to see the results that we really desire in our heart, and that we know we're impacting our family by making the incorrect choice. I mean, I can't imagine that a mother or father would choose to just keep eating like we did now in hindsight. And now hearing from one of our more adult children that, wow, I guess, and it's painful to say, is that one of the parents just didn't love them enough to lose the weight.
Mm.
Okay. I know I went to bed every night when we'd have our last kiss at bed, at night, and I wondered if my husband would wake up because he was morbidly obese. And that was a fear. So when we're speaking to people, it's everyone says, "Oh, I'm ready to go on, I'm ready for heaven." Well, that's well and good, but what about your spouse and your children, grandchildren that you're leaving behind? Are you that selfish, honestly, that one more bite of ice cream or a drink, a fruity summer drink is more important, or a cappuccino is more important than your family, much less what the joy you would have by being part of your family, giving to your community. If you have work you love, hopefully you would find it if you didn't already have it. Like Alan said, we've seen people get their dream jobs just literally within weeks of taking action with their weight.
Right, Alan. So why do you believe the obesity pandemic keeps getting worse with the diet industry? Now I'm talking about the US here, with the diet industry growing over $16 billion in revenue.
Well, it's because it's not really, it doesn't benefit them to solve the problem. I mean, it benefits the diet and the diet industry to not solve the problem. It really does. And I'm not saying that people in the industry don't have good intentions at heart, but at the end of the day, it's a personal responsibility issue. It really is. And again, do people have to change what you eat? Of course they do. Just like to piggyback on what Andrew's saying. I mean, when we think about, just use example, sugar. And I have no problem with sugar. It tastes good. I mean, everybody loves it at some level. But at the end of the day, it's common sense to know that you're not gonna be able to eat massive quantities of sugar and lose weight. So, but we keep searching for this immediate solution that's already within us. The diet and exercise, the diet industry as a whole. Think about the products that they're selling. Nothing wrong with a lot of them. A lot of them are good products. We use ourselves. I mean if you just go back to what really works. If somebody's passionate about not eating meat, that's fine. Then but don't eat bags of potato chips just because they're not meat. I mean, we see people in this challenge. They all come to the same conclusion. It's so interesting. And and to give you an idea, Mbala, is where this came from years ago when we lost our weight. Most people, because you can't hide it, just like you can't hide being obese, you can't hide when the weight comes off. And this is before we were doing any coaching. We would help people that called and asked us, and had a lady reach out to Angie and I that was morbidly obese. She had more than 100 pounds loose. She was a cosmetologist, and she was a friend of a friend. And I said, well, this is what we ate. Okay. And she's, oh my gosh. And she became a microbiologist, not really, but in her mind, she started dissecting what these particular things how they were. Oh, I wouldn't eat it for that reason, that reason, that reason. I said, okay, fine. What'd you have for lunch? And she said to me, she went to Taco Bell, and nothing wrong with Taco Bell, but Taco Bell is not known for their nutritional quality as overall. And she ate garbage for lunch. I said, and the next natural question to ask her was, what'd you have for dessert? And she said she had Kit Kat candy bar. I said, that's great. I love Kit Kat. So the chocolate, the cookie together, I love that. Have a nice life. And I got off the phone and I said to Angie, I said, that is the last time I will ever tell anybody what to eat, because people were looking. I did this myself, and Angie did it too. We looked for, it was our excuse not to go the distance. And when somebody and see, that's what the diet industry does. It gives people an excuse, because you can blame the diet on it. But I will venture to guess almost every one of the diets out there, of the 60, 70 billion, whatever it is up to now, still growing, almost every one of them work at some level. The trick is sticking to it. When you learn to stick to it, and you learn, and you take ownership of the process yourself, you don't need the diet industry to tell you what to do. The solutions become common sense. It's just like, I remember years ago, not long after we started coaching, a client of ours came to us and said, it was about this time of year, it was the day after Easter. He said, you know what I had for breakfast this morning? He thought I was going to be really angry at him. He said, you want to know what I had for breakfast? And I said, no, what'd you have? He said, apple pie. I said, you figured it out, didn't you? Good for you. He said, you're not mad? Of course I'm not mad. I said, you figured out the solution, didn't you? He said, I did. And that's what I was waiting to tell you. I want to know if you would condemn me for eating apple pie. I said, no, you figured out a way to eat it and still lose weight, didn't you? And he did. The point is, we don't have to give up everything. You just can't eat it all at once. And he made the decision to do it. And he said, gosh, there's no guilt in this. I said, you're right. There is no guilt in it. It's just taking responsibility and owning the fact. Whereas the diet industry, the quote diet industry, what they're doing, they're asking you to give all the responsibility to them. And that's the problem. It'll never work. and they will get richer, and that's fine. Let them get richer. I mean, but they want you to give the responsibility of your weight loss to them, to a pill, to a surgery, to a particular type of food. But if you refuse to do that, and you refuse to do if you do that and refuse to do the internal work, you'll be on the diver's circle of insanity for the rest of your life if you're looking up to live long.
Because like Alan mentioned, you asked about the, diet pills and so forth. The injections are lifelong. Our clients that have come to us after being on them, and it's amazing. People think they're going to take the injections, lose weight, and stay that size, and they never do. And unfortunately, there are studies anyone can look up. There's one gentleman, after just one injection, he now can no longer eat normal food after just one injection of one of the solutions, if you will, that's being prescribed. And they're now even testing them on children. I mean, children as young as 8, I believe I read recently.
So
what are we teaching our children?
Right. Thanks once again, Alan and Angie. I think it's all about having the right mindset, developing a mind shift in all of these, because when we come to realize this, we keep finding ourselves in a rut doing the same thing because we've had the poor of faulty programming, and it's keeping us in a rut. Thanks for sharing this stuff with my audience, Alan and Angie. I hope that we can continue to have this kind of brilliant discussion on how we can have a mind shift about our diet and our lifestyle, and the world become a better place to live in. Indeed. Do you have any exciting news you'd like to share, or any important information you think is going to be beneficial to the audience?
Absolutely. And Bala, what Angie and I did, we created a training that's specifically for your audience. And if they will go to transformmyfuture.com/life well lived, transformmyfuture.com/life well lived. I put that in the chat for you. And if they'll go there, they can see it's a totally free training we created for your audience. It's a step-by-step strategy Angie and I used to lose 192 pounds together in 260 days in 2017. Whether they travel, work from home, whether they've never been able to lose weight in the past, if they follow the steps, there's nothing to buy. It's totally free. There's zero to buy. But if they'll watch that and apply those principles, they will get a much better life that they can live. And so if you but they can go to that site and we'll keep that training up. So if somebody's listening to your podcast a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they'll be able to access that as well. So thank you so much for having us. That's our gift for your audience. So.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for that, Alan and Angie. We will share that in the show notes subsequently. Thank you once again. I wish you the best of luck in the projects that you embark upon, Alan. Do you have any parting words you'd like to share? And if you have any social media handles you also think they can connect with?
Well, the real thing is to be hopeful. It's so very easy for somebody who struggles with obesity to lose all hope. I mean, it really is. But to take a hard look at, the magnitude of their problem with weight and look at how committed they are to really solving it. And that's really what I would say, but be hopeful, because we've just seen it happen over and over where people had lost hope and they still were able to get the weight off without crazy pills and surgeries and all the things that are so risky nowadays. You have the ability, but you got to learn how to go to the distance.
Any word, Angie?
If we can do it, anyone else can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, like Alan said, years and years and years of this and that, and it was just making the decision. But so anyone can do it.
Absolutely. Thanks for that motivation to you both once again. I've been having a great time having an Alan and Angie Thomas weight loss coaches who are the payoff line as unleashing human potential to weight loss. Now they've had a great time with my audience, sharing profound insight on how we can get it right, especially dieting and obesity in these challenging times of our lives. We wish you best of luck once again, now and in the future. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the show, you can do so on any cost promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms. Online, you can just search for Lawel Farmer Steven, and I guarantee you, you're going to have a transformative mindset as you listen to expert professionals and thought leaders share their thoughts and insights on topics or subjects on the personal development and self-improvement. Remember that you have to continue to improve on personal development and self-improvement. It's a constant effort you have to keep on doing. It's not something that is automatic. It's not an overnight thing. But I guarantee you, once you put your heart to something, you are going to achieve it at the end of the day. Thank you once again for joining me. Till I come your way, I need to stay safe. I talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan and Angie.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mbala. We appreciate it.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.